It's time once again, everybody, for 44 and 1. I am GVizzle. With me, as always, is Tempest. Like and subscribe.
Yay!
Comment, engage, do something.
Did you know we're in the top 50% of podcasts?
That, because there's a bajillion podcasts out there, that sounds like not an impressive number.
But it's still, though, I think considering how niche we are, and we have no advertising, nobody knows who we are.
My mom does.
Yay!
She doesn't.
Hopefully my mum doesn't.
Well, we never talk about, well, no, we have talked about, oh yeah, hopefully she doesn't.
Yeah.
You've said some things.
Yeah.
I've been very careful. You said some shit.
Yeah. Oh, she knows it. I don't say anything on here I wouldn't say to her face.
I don't know if that's admirable or troubling.
Both.
Because I've heard what you say about her.
Yeah.
Today we're talking about something exciting.
Mm.
So Matt Healy, I believe, of the band 1975, a band I've never heard of before. Have you?
Nope, never.
Okay, so I'll have to look them up. So at a concert somewhere, a young woman, presumably at an all ages show, is holding up a sign saying that she wants him to be her first kiss.
Yeah.
He sees this, calls her up, asks her, says, "You better not be fucking 16." She said, "No, I'm 22. He doesn't believe her, checks her ID, jumps into the audience, again asks her if this is what she wants. She says emphatically yes. He plants a smooch on her. She is clearly wooed.
Yeah.
She's quite enjoying it. And then the internet went bananas.
Yeah.
Because he, let me check my notes, did exactly what we want men to fucking do. He made sure she was of an appropriate age, and he asked for her consent. Even though she had a big sign up, he still asked for her consent. People kissed, and then people lost their minds.
Yeah, I thought it was very gentlemanly, considering the power and balance of a famous person and a follower of your art.
Yes.
And he did it in a really lovely way, I thought, because he knows he's going to have young fans. And
it wasn't like her friend recorded the kiss, and it wasn't sleazy. It was quite sweet and lovely, and like she was happy with it. But people are like, if you have to check her ID, then you shouldn't be kissing her. But then that's she looked younger. And then someone else, I think my favorite comment I saw was like, I've been to hundreds of concerts, and the singer has never jumped into I've never been to a concert where the singer jumped into the audience and sort of randomly kissing the audience. It's like, yeah, but you still haven't. Because she held up a sign. She requested it. It was a whole thing. It was like the best birthday she's ever going to have.
Yeah.
I think pissed all over it.
Yeah, I think people just like hating on stuff, and you can't have anything nice, can you?
You really can't.
No.
Because if he hadn't checked her ID, and people would have been saying, like, what if she was 16? Because if he had that concern, it must have been an all ages show and not an adults only show. So if he hadn't checked her ID, people would have been freaking out because he hadn't checked her ID. If he had ignored her entirely when she's holding a big sign, he would have been a dick who doesn't engage with his audience. So like there's never any winning in any scenario.
And when you consider the history of bands and after show parties and young women, like the fact he did it so publicly in front of the world shows you, like, at least he's trying. He's trying to do the right things. And he knows what it would mean to her to have this experience. Her first ever kiss, not first anything, first kiss. She's never kissed someone and she's 22.
First kiss with her, like, probably favorite band, because why would she? It's not like she goes to every concert. Right? Like, that's a big deal. And it's recorded, it's out there, and then people just chat all over immediately.
I think a minority of very vocal, miserable people chat on it.
I know, but they are very vocal. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And then it makes you feel like there are more of them than there are because they just talk so loud. Exactly.
Because most of us, like, we would have seen that and probably had a private thought, like, oh, that's cute, and then moved on with our day.
That's exactly what happened. Like we saw it on Flipboard. My husband saw it, and then I saw it a couple minutes later, and we were both like, "That's really nice." Like he took the extra step of like asking for consent, and like he made it really sweet. And then we're looking at the comments of like the article. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake!
And the thing
he
is,
did
like,
it all right. Like he did what? This is why people say women don't know what they want, because even when we say we want, there's a small group that gets all pissy about it.
I wonder how many of them, though, were actually blokes saying it as well, because they finally have a good role model of somebody who they can emulate and follow. It's a good example of being a decent human being. And then they don't like that because we're not supposed to have good role models. They think society doesn't want to give us good role models. So they make up all of this stuff about it.
See, I was seeing it from the other perspective, that a guy seeing that and seeing like that is a good role model, and then reading the comments being like, oh, well, then who the fuck are my role models?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I think it could confuse a lot of people about
Exactly.
like what it's just.
It's bananas.
Can't we have nice?
Yeah, yeah. And that's why, like, I think that those of us that kind of don't see a problem with it, I think that's why more people should talk about the positive stuff more. They're like, this is a great idea. And like some of the things I'm trying to do on TikTok is trying to engage more with positive videos. And then like just even if it's a benign comment just for the algorithm, I always try and hit like, leave a comment for them and repost it. Just to try and start balancing out, because the people who get the most engaging content are the really negative, horrible people.
Yeah.
You know,
if it's contentious, because I mean, you and I have both had a lot of content, and we're both pretty miserable, but I don't think we're hateful.
No.
We've had, I think, any opinion that is contentious, but there are people who, I don't know if they go out of their way to, like, I always wonder how much of it is fake. How much of that persona is put on because it gets you the clicks and views. And if people are hate watching you, they're still watching you. And on YouTube, if you're monetized, then you're getting paid for people to actively hate you. So like, I know ignoring all of those things is the best way to make it die out, but sometimes you just don't know. Is it legit? Exactly. Is it not?
And you have to, and when you see the bad stuff, you have to speak out against it, because like, you don't want that perpetuating. You don't want people thinking that that's okay to act that way.
Yeah.
So you do have to fight it. I just think that I'm just trying to give equal balance to the positive stuff as well, just to try and, so like, okay, so if I've said this, but I should say something equally good about somebody else's content that was loving, and then share that.
It sounds like you're trying to karmically balance your For You page.
Yeah, but for the, it does sound that way, doesn't it? But I don't think
every shitty comment I leave, I'll leave 2 nice comments. That'll balance it out.
But maybe that's actually quite a good way of thinking about it, that most people can probably understand, is that like, okay, if you've left X number of shitty or contentious comments, or you've shared this number of negative videos, deliberately look for some good content to get out there in the world too.
So there have been a couple of people who, like, I've seen them make super shitty comments, and then I'll like, I need to know everything about their lives.
Yeah.
So I'll like deep dive into other comments they left to see, is this like a one-off, or are they just generally a shitty troll person? And there have been a few times where they are just genuinely trolls, right? And I don't know how to describe it any other way, because I have to hope it's done intentionally to piss people off, and they're not actually that cuntified. That's how they go around in their everyday life. But then what motivates people? Like, I don't understand the motivation to be so negative and mean. Yeah.
When we first started seeing trolls on the internet, you know, probably about 25 years ago now, 20 years ago, my mate always said to me, don't feed the trolls. The best way to get rid of them is don't feed them. Then they just starve and die out. You just ignore them.
And there's often times where I see a comment and I think this is an obvious troll, so I'm just going to ignore it or delete it. But there's other times where it's like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I want to respond because I don't know. And even if this person was a troll who didn't mean it, there may be somebody who reads that and they're like, yeah, I agree with that. So then sometimes I feel like obligated to respond, and then other times I feel obligated to ignore. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
Tempest.
I am the vicious cycle. What I do like, though, is that on TikTok you can delete other people's comments off of your stuff. So I do that. Like, depending on what they've said, I just kind of make a snap judgment, kind of based on how they've presented themselves. Have I seen this person before, and how am I feeling today?
Yeah. There are some times where I'll like delete a comment on a Monday because I'm feeling like I don't want to
Yeah.
deal with it. But then by Tuesday, I'm fired up. And I'm like, fuck, I want to get that back so I can make a video.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll just tear into them.
I usually regret deleting them, but yeah. So now I usually just, because I think if you block them, it just hides all of their comments, doesn't it, from
Yes,
everyone else?
that's true. Because then you can unblock them and get all the goodness back.
Yeah, exactly. Like now I can reply, and because I've got this little cabal of like 5 or fewer weirdos trolling me and harassing me at the moment.
Yeah,
So
you do. You do.
I've got under their skin, I think.
I think so. And I mean, like, it's kind of flattering. Like, I have to tell
Yeah,
you, when I found out that Alex had blocked me, I was a
yeah.
little chuffed. Like, oh, look
Yeah.
at him. I mean, I can still get to him through my dog's account, so he just doesn't know that. But
And we could just make infinite more and carry on watching his content.
no, thank you. I
I think,
haven't seen Connor come up. We've been getting his emails, but I haven't seen him come up on my
yeah,
page.
yeah. I haven't seen many dating coaches crop up. I have to actually look for them if I'm looking for
Yeah,
them, which is good.
me too. And then I'm like,
mentally,
it's good,
but they're
but then
still
I
there.
feel, but I know, but like I feel like when I do that, I'm pulling a Zool, where I am
Yeah.
like intentionally trying to make myself mad. Just people. I should just be able to scroll and get mad organically, like God
Yeah,
intended.
like everyone else. Yeah,
Oh,
because it's because I kind of want to be in touch with what they're saying, because like I need to talk about the other side of it, even if I'm doing
yeah,
it obliquely without mentioning them. Like, particularly coming from a man, like men need to know that what they're doing is wrong, and they need other men to hear it. But I'm having trouble reaching the men because 75% of my 8,200 followers now, 75% of them are women.
yeah.
Which
I
is,
have a predominantly higher number of women, which makes sense.
well, the thing is though, that like my content is for everybody, right? But the kind of men that I want to reach just don't want to learn or grow.
Here's also where I think it is women are raised fearful, right? Like
Mm,
as soon as we're young, we're told how to sit. So you sit like a lady, how to dress so that you're not, putting it out there. Like from the time
mm,
we're young, we're always told to be wary of
mm,
predators, whether that's, a guy in a hoodie in a dark alley
mm,
or, a friendly man in a van with some candy. We're always wary. So I think women engage with that type of content more
mm,
because we have it in the mindset, if
mm.
safety first, where I think men either don't believe it's going to happen to them or they don't think it happens as often. So when they see the type of content, they have that, it's not going to happen to me. I don't have to worry. That's for
Yeah,
women. Like I think there's that safety mindset,
yeah.
self-preservation mindset that women have ingrained in them from the time they're toddlers.
Yeah, so my content is more believable to them because most of them have lived it at some point in some fashion.
And if they haven't lived it yet, they know the statistics or
Yeah,
that they likely will.
yeah.
So it's like someone had commented, like, why do women watch true crime documentaries? Are they trying to learn how to murder their husbands? And all the women responded to say, no.
No.
What we learned is that if a man does this, you should do this. Like we're learning the tactics of the predator, not
Yeah.
how to become a predator.
Yeah.
Where like just that question
Mm.
talks to the mindset of a man. Like I think men see your comments and or your videos and they're like, I'm not a sex offender and I'm too old for it. So who cares
Yeah.
about my kids or whatever?
Yeah,
Just keep scrolling.
exactly. Keep scrolling. And like, why would I want to learn and grow? And like, women in general, compared to men in general, are more interested in people than things, and men are the other way around in general. So, like, where all my stuff, like, even on my psychology degree, there was 240 people in my year. 200 of them were women. 40 of them were men. So,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Is there a higher? I guess that then there is then that there are a lot more female psychologists than there would be male psychologists.
It depends on the field. I think as you go through higher education, the gender ratios balance out more. And when you get lecturers, it's mostly 50-50. But most of the women doing a psychology degree want to go into things like nursery work or social work and care and
Okay.
all that stuff, or they want to be a nurse. And then they do like a psychology degree first because it will give them more options. And it's particularly a Bachelor of Science, is a lot more rigorous in some ways than the other more specific courses like social work. And then they won't get pigeonholed into that one profession, and they'll have like a broader knowledge base. And then where women are more interested in people. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then blokes always have like this, when I tell them that, they usually like, oh, I bet you had good fun on your degree then. With all those women around. Like, that's the thing they always say first.
It's funny, when it comes to men, I think men insult other men in terms of status or finances. And when men need to like put a woman in her place, as it were, they always go for looks.
Yeah.
Like they still, I think it's hilarious that men still think like, oh, you're just going to die alone with your cats is an insult. Like if a woman chooses pets over you, that says more about you than
yeah, totally
about them.
Yeah, one of my mates' mums, when she was in her late 40s, early 50s, and she was going back out into the dating world and just seeing what was out there. Yeah, and she said like, she was like, middle-aged blokes, she says they're single for a reason. It's because their wife rejected them. So she says like there's hardly any decent blokes out there in their 40s and 50s who are decent, stable, hardworking men that you can rely on. They're mostly crybaby imbeciles.
So I think the lesson here is stay away from divorced men and find widows.
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah. It makes sense. I mean, like one of the statistics that gets thrown around a lot is that women file for divorce more. It's like, yeah, but who's they filing for divorce from?
Exactly.
Right? Like people don't file for divorce in happy marriages. If they're fulfilled and they're happy, they're not filing for divorce. So where do you think that's being driven from?
Yeah. Because it takes two people to make a relationship function. And it's the other thing is like people think that then by saying that, you're then like saying without saying that women are fantastic and men are useless. It's like, no, it's just that the relationship is breaking down for whatever reason, and then women have filed for that divorce because they're unhappy. If they were happy, it meant that the relationship functioned. It doesn't, Yeah,
and I think it's interesting because women statistically file for divorce more. Men statistically cheat more. So when they're unfulfilled, they just step outside their marriage. When women are unfulfilled, they want to step away from the marriage to mix a metaphor or whatever. So,
it's actually interesting because like this is just my personal experience in my life. I had a girlfriend that we were together for like 5 years, and it got to the point because we used to live together, but then for work I had to move away, and we both had full-time jobs each side of the country, and the relationship degraded, and I always get different responses for how the relationship ended and what people focus on. And so I decided, okay, I'm speaking to her on X day, and on that day I'm going to end the relationship. Okay. But the night before, I slept with someone else. And even though the relationship so in my mind, the relationship's over, we just haven't spoken about it. And then, see, this is what I'm saying. So the women,
I don't know.
Yeah, most women that I speak to, I mean, I'll tell you where I land on this in a minute, because I've obviously thought about this a lot over the years. I mean, this was like fucking 12 years ago. Anyway, so the women come down on the side of, no, you cheated. It doesn't matter when you did it. You hadn't broken up yet. And she, like, you might have thought you broken up, but she didn't know. And even though she might know the conversation was coming, it's like the conversation hasn't happened. But then the blokes are like, well, yeah, you're about to break up with her, so what's the problem? And then because I was a man at the time, I was on that side. But then within a year of ending the relationship, I kind of changed my mind about it because I grew up a lot. And this was still when I was young and fucking idiot. And like, I don't regret ending
Whereas now, where you're just a fucking idiot.
Yeah, exactly. But back then, my worldview was a bit different. It was a lot more cynical, a lot more pessimistic. And in my mind, I was like, well, I was going to break up with her anyway. And I had that very masculine, just blokey perspective on it. And like, I don't regret ending the relationship because we just weren't good for each other. But it's just.
But do you regret, like, would you have
Yeah.
You could go back and redo those
Yeah.
3 days, which
Yeah, totally. Yeah, definitely. Because even though they're like the events, like all I had to do was flip them around and everything would have been
yeah,
fine.
totally fine.
Yeah, yeah. And it's kind of like it's the principle of it. It's like it's the fact of where you're at and like how much you show respect to the other person and how much you respect their time together and how you think of other human beings. I think there's a lot of subtext in it. And I think that by doing what I did, I didn't show that woman the respect that she deserved from putting 5 years into this relationship for me just to hold on for another day. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. And I think it's admirable that you came to that place,
Yeah.
because there are a lot of men who would have thought that 12 years ago when they were 25, and now they would still think it 12 years later because they wouldn't have matured or grown. Because it's very difficult to take accountability for your own shitty actions. And that you can do that is well done, sir.
Thank you. But this is the thing. But this is what my personal pet peeve with blokes on TikTok at the moment is that these are the people that like. So my experience, there's other men on there who are equally as open and honest about their lives. That blokes aren't listening to. Young men in their 20s need to listen to us because we've been there and done it. We've made the mistakes.
Do you think it's the way the messaging comes across? Because when you look at the other guys, they all focus on it being a woman's fault, right? And whether they say it directly or indirectly, it all comes down to like, not you, buddy, you're perfect. You keep doing you.
Yeah.
It's the women who are the problem. Or they come across as like, here's all the things that you need to have to get a woman, but they don't tell you how to get them, right? Like Tate was always like, you have to have money, you have to have cars, you have to have this, you have that. No, like you have to work for it. Whereas the men like you and the other men like you who go out and they actually have a positive, healthy message for men, it comes across as work, right? Like you got to put in an effort, and nobody wants fucking effort. No, nobody wants to do that. So they take the path of least resistance, because the path of least resistance is I don't have to do any work, and if I don't get all kinds of pussy, it's because women are bitches. Whereas the other one is I got to do a lot of work, and I can only get the horizontal mambo if it's fully consensual and sweet and loving. So they took the easy way out. And men capitalize on that.
Yeah. And the blokes that are saying those things as well, the negative ones, they all look the same. They're all like, they're in shape, they're reasonably good looking in some sense, and they're quite extroverted. Because people like Alex and the guy in the woods, they're focused very much on the 15-year-olds. Like they're they're doing, in a non-sexual sense, they're grooming young boys to become these toxic incel young men, whereas the other guys, Connor and a few others, I can't remember what they're called, but like they tend to, and Tate and that, they're focusing on young men in their early 20s, even though young boys might be attracted to their image too. But their main thing is young men who can go out there and try and attempt what, like, you know, go out there with that mindset and all that stuff. They're a bit more, I don't know, masculine oriented, whereas the MRAs, like I think that's the difference, is that Alex and Guy in the Woods are men's rights activists and incels, whereas Tate and Connor are just toxic masculinity.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Then there's a difference in between Tate and Connor, is that Connor's like one of those red pill guys. It's like, if you go dating, do plan A, execute X, Y, and Z, and then you'll get the bitch. Whereas Tate is nothing to do with red pill stuff. He's just like, he calls it chasing male excellence. So he's trying to, in his own mind, he's trying to empower men. He's about male empowerment. But
why does it always have to come like, it's like the empowerment always has to come at the cost of someone else. Like they just, none of these men can see that men and women can both thrive.
Yes.
Right? Like they always have to, like, to make men superior, make women inferior. They always got to like shit on women. It's like, why can't we just both just fucking do our own thing?
Yeah.
Live our best lives. And if I'm not for you, then I'm not for you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But it's just, the empowerment always comes by stomping on women's heads.
And I think that out of all of them, this is going to sound really weird, the less dangerous one, I think, is Tate. Even though out of all of them, they're all dangerous in their own ways. Tate's the most balanced one, which is scary.
It is, and he's also the most cartoonish, for lack of a
Yeah,
better
yeah,
word.
yeah.
Right? Like he doesn't
He's a
come
caricature.
across like, he doesn't come across like a real person. And even sometimes when you watch his own body language when he's in interviews, like he'll smirk at times where you think
Yeah,
like, oh, he's full of shit.
yeah,
Where
yeah.
the other guys, I think, really believe it. And it's
Mm.
like, it's so on Reddit, I've kind of stumbled down to some shady subreddits, right? And like, there's a
Mm.
lot of these incels that, like, back in the day, the in incel meant involuntary, but these
Yeah,
men are actively choosing.
yeah. They're
They're
volcells.
yeah, they're totally are. They're actively choosing to reject women before women have the opportunity to reject them. It's not even that women have rejected them. Like there was one guy made this whole post, this rant about how women are always making fun of him, not to his face, but he knows that when he walks past a group of women and they laugh, they're laughing at him. And like it's like, but
That's paranoia.
it's paranoia and egomaniacal. Like what?
Yeah,
They didn't even notice you, my guy. Like you're like,
yeah,
where's Waldo to them? They didn't even know.
yeah.
But just that whole like I'm the center of the universe.
Mm.
People aren't falling at my feet and offering to suck my dick in dark alleys, so it
Yeah,
must be
yeah.
it must be that.
And this is the difference, I think. Like with the vol cells, what freaks me out about them is just that they seem to be men who have still got the mentality of 12 or 13-year-olds. Like they
Yeah.
haven't evolved out of that state. They learn all these weird norms and ideas and they never develop them.
No, they didn't get asked to the Sadie Hawkins dance, and so they decided that all women are terrible.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't put themselves out there, and then it's women's fault for
Yeah.
not understanding that when they held the door open for us, it wasn't just common courtesy; it was
Yeah.
chivalry,
Yeah.
milady.
Well, like I said about that old mate of mine used to have, and he when I last knew him, he was 24 and he still hadn't slept with somebody. And he didn't realize that was through choice. Like, it's like, dude, women have approached you in pubs and stuff. I've fucking been there when a woman is talking to you. It's in your head.
Really?
Mm.
So what would he have considered an approach by a woman?
I don't know. I have no idea. But he even had a girlfriend at one point and like they kissed a couple of times, but then she broke up with him because he would never do anything to advance anything. And she just
Well, why
felt
didn't
weird.
she?
Oh, she did.
Oh,
He just like was weird about it. So she kind of got bad vibes off of him and legged it.
so it's women's fault, I bet.
Yeah. Yeah.
So welcome to a new segment we've come up with. It's called The Fuck Is Wrong With You, where we are going to take a look at screenshots of text exchanges, tweets, random things we found on the internet, and ask the all-important question, the fuck is wrong with you?
And let's
Let
be
us
honest,
begin.
this section is your creation. I think this is a fantastic idea.
Because every time I scroll through Reddit, I say, the fuck is wrong with you about 18 times. So this one is probably one of my favorites. This is from one man. One man has said, this is my type of girl. And we're going to read it out for those of you who are listening. Okay. Funny, cute, American English, voice pitch, mid to high, white or Asian, medium-sized boobs, medium-sized booty, thick meat, skinny body, blonde or brown hair color, long hair down to boobs, no hair on body except hair on head, clean/organized, not a gold digger, fun, silly, not crazy psycho, spelled incorrectly, romantic, loyal, trusting, caring, doesn't drink alcohol, doesn't smoke, doesn't do drugs, can have 2 to 3 little tattoos, nipples pierced, active and outgoing, loves to role play. No marriage, no kids, 1 to 3 body counts, no problems, no disabilities, no cancer of any kind. Crazy, but in a good way. First date, any place. Loves video games, racing games, playing games, makes videos, cuddling, not a slut, not a whore, kissing, fun in bed, no snoring when sleeping, smart, nice, works out, listen to any music, hardworking, dancer, any colored eyes, creative, height anywhere between 5'3" to 5'7", age 20 to 24.
Okay, you want
What
a
the fuck is wrong with
unicorn?
you?
Yeah, definitely. Like, what the fuck? That's a guy with some serious issues. And did he make this whole image?
Yeah.
So this isn't
This
like
is his.
this isn't like a summary that someone's cobbled together of what he said. This is actually him that's made this.
He posted this like he expects women to respond, being like, me, oh me.
Fucking hell.
But medium-sized boobs, medium-sized boobie, thick meat, skinny body, those things do not coexist.
No. And it's so, what is medium size anyway? That's such a subjective thing.
Absolutely. I mean, according to Anthony Michael Hall in Weird Science, anything bigger than a hand, your palm, and you're risking
Yeah,
a
it's a
sprained
bit of a
tongue.
rest, a bit of a waste. Yeah.
But American English voice pitch,
Yeah.
like voice pitch, really? Voice pitch? She has nipples pierced. Like, what is he going to do the first time he meets a woman? Just like, show me your 2 to 3 little tattoos and
Yeah.
your nipples?
Weirdly specific. And some of the stuff is just the same as other things.
Yeah, it's all the same. And
Like,
I love like not a gold digger, motherfucker. You don't have money. Like,
yeah. If you had money, you wouldn't be on this forum doing this. Fucking idiot.
yeah.
And when he specifies right at the end, age 20 to 24, it makes me feel like he's about 55.
Ew. And no cancer of any kind. In the comments, this is so I wish I had screenshot of the comments, but I didn't. But in the comments, people are like, dude, cancer? And he responds, if I don't have it, she can't have it.
What?
Really? Do you have medium-sized boobs?
Yeah.
I mean, if you wanted to send this to the makers of a real doll, I think they could make that work. But no problems. She's not allowed to have any problems.
No baggage, no developmental issues from her life.
No disability. I'm wondering what he considers a disability. Like, is it just visible disabilities or invisible disabilities? Like,
and then like when he specifies as well, 1 to 3 body counts. I don't know why he says body counts. That's a bit weird. But then he says not a slut, not a whore. But
yes, that's the same.
Yeah, why have you said the same thing 3 times?
But also, I mean, it's not only that. Like, if you're thinking that someone who's got more than 3 partners is a slut or a whore, like, then how old are you? Are you?
Yeah. He's either 12 or he's born in 1938.
Yeah. Cuddling, kissing, fun in bed, but with only 1 to 3 body counts. So you've got to have spent a lot of time with those 1 to 3 to really get comfortable and get to know who you are sexually to be able to be fun in bed.
Yeah, I mean, body count in general, I find a weird thing that people focus on.
It's absolutely ridiculous. And my take is don't ask a question you don't want the answer to.
Yeah, totally. I mean,
you don't know.
And then what I find weird as well is, like, depending on the audience, people either say that my body count is really high or really low or average, depending on who is hearing it.
I think there was this comment. There was this, all of this is subjective. Like, body count is totally subjective. Active and outgoing is subjective. Role play, like, all of this is. But I think I've heard something once about body count. Like, men will typically add a 0 to their body count, where women will like cut it in half and take away another half.
That means my body count's 200.
What?
Supposed to add a 0.
The whole body count, not 2 of them.
Hang on, wait, does my hand count?
As 10, if you use both hands.
Yeah. Well, of course I have to use both hands. I mean, come on. I could do with a third, really.
I don't even know what to say to that. You've rendered me speechless, sir.
That's the first time ever.
Type of girl. And girl was so telling.
Yeah, right.
So telling.
The fact he's saying my type of girl and he wants it to be 20 to 24. Yeah, those are women. All right. Do women still love their ugly fathers when they grow up?
Yeah. This one. This one came from a forum where men believe that women can only tolerate spending time with or being in the vicinity of men they consider attractive, even if it's their own father. So if she gets to an age and realizes that her father is ugly, she will distance themselves. So I will let you, even though I've spoiler alert, I'll let you read the entirety.
So do women still love their ugly fathers when they grow up? Or do they see them as the equivalent of some uncle? I always wanted a son, but I wonder if my daughter would be as loving when she grows up, or if she would notice my ugliness and be, yikes, thanks for everything, Dad. I'll visit you once in a while, but don't touch me. I know about the daughter question, Pastor, and I agree, but the thing that would worry me the most is having my kid hating me. I know how to make son love me because I know what I wanted as a child. Not the same for a daughter. Maybe I would end up completely abandoned when she grew up. I think if that's the outlook that you're teaching your kid, I would say yes, you are going to be abandoned, but not for the reasons you think.
Yeah, and like how it's almost sad. Like it's almost sad that he thinks so little of all women, to think
Yeah.
that even his own daughter would reject him. Like if his own daughter would reject him, how are you even having a daughter?
And
But like it's also when he says, I know what I wanted as a child, so I know how to make my son love me, but what you wanted as a child is not going to be the same thing that your son wants. Like you're two separate and distinct people.
yeah.
That what makes you happy isn't going to be what makes him happy.
And there are three things involved in what kind of a child you're going to have. Part one is half of your genes. Part two is half of your wife or partner's genes. And you don't know which half it's going to be of you. It's going to be half of one, half of the other, and you don't have any say in which half. And then the third thing is the environment they're developing and within and growing up in. That those three together make a person. Yeah. And the thing you shouldn't be worried about is my daughter still going to love me because I'm ugly?
Yeah, like, is my daughter attracted to me? Is essentially what it comes down to. Because he's like, thanks for everything. I'll visit you once in a while, but don't touch me. Like,
why are you touching your daughter, dude?
It's just this one. It was like almost a cause for concern.
Yes. Yeah. It's hovering there, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's too materialistic. It's too like reductionist,
and it's also sexualizing a relationship between you and your daughter.
Yeah.
Because I can look at my dad's pictures when he was younger and say, like, objectively he was a good-looking man when he was younger, but like that has like zero impact on our relationship or how I treated him, because he's my dad. Like,
yeah, exactly.
He spent way too much time on like banged the stepdaughter porn.
Yeah.
Influencing his head.
Yeah. Man, I feel sad for the daughter. And like, if you're worried, okay, this is the other thing I thought when I was reading it. He's worried that his daughter will reject him because he's ugly. Bearing in mind that half of your daughter's looks will come from you, aren't you more worried about your daughter than yourself? Like, you know, it's, I don't know. I don't know why he's not more worried about the daughter in all of this. Like, if she's got half of your dickhead genes, be like, I would personally be like, oh, I'm so focused on looks and materialism. I'm worried I'm going to raise my daughter into that as well. She's not going to find a good partner.
Yeah, so he's going to raise her into that. But also, if he thinks the genes he's contributing to the situation are ugly, how is he going to perceive his daughter's appearance? Is he going to see only himself in her and then reject her because of the same crazy thoughts that he's got going on in his head? The fuck is wrong with this guy?
Everything.
My favorite segment ever.
Yeah, this is good.
Oh, this is a big
one. Okay, so this is in Not How Girls Work. So this is...
Well, someone found this in an incel post and then cross-posted to Not How Girls Work. So all of us girls on that could be like, the fuck is wrong?
So he wants his bitch to be homeschooled but went to school. Brackets, didn't do her homeschool work. What? What does that mean?
So if I'm understanding that correctly, she started off as being homeschooled.
Right.
Didn't do the homework that her parents presumably assigned to her. So they were like, we give up on you, so we're going to send you to a regular school.
And yet it says the second thing here, has a GED. But how can you get a GED if you didn't go to school?
It's an excellent question. I'm hoping this one is satire.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Grew up poor, still is poor. Skinny and fit. Well, she's probably going to be skinny if she's really that poor as you want her to be. Yeah, and skinny, you can be fit if you're skinny, but like skinny doesn't mean that you're going to be fit. Doesn't mean healthy.
And neither of those, exactly.
But he wants her to be a virgin as well.
Of course he does.
If she's been really fucked up by not doing her homeschool work, having to go to school and being poor, with all of like the socioeconomic issues that has and the disordered upbringing and everything, is she going to be a virgin? Like, or is she going to have gone out and found friends and gone, and lived a life now because she's had to leave home?
I think he's talking, like, if you look at homeschool, grew up poor, still poor, skinny, and fit, I think he's talking about Cinderella.
Yeah. Yeah. never had a relationship. Okay, so she
No.
can have a little high school or middle school boyfriend is okay, as long as you both didn't have sex or go long term.
So he's a
Both,
virgin. So
but
he's clearly a virgin.
yeah, I think he might have some issues with consent too. Like,
Mm.
you both didn't have sex, so one, like, you stick a man and a woman together, or in this case, a boy and a girl together. One of them can have sex and the other one isn't.
The way I didn't interpret it that way. I interpreted it that both he meant him and his future partner. Okay, I'm seeing it
Yeah,
from your perspective now. I know, yeah, I get it.
yeah,
So, okay, and go long term.
yeah. Then,
So
so what is
she
long
can't have
term?
so she can't be with this guy for a year, even if they haven't had
Yeah,
sex.
he
Okay.
wants it to be as free of taint as possible. That's so weird. And like, because the thing is, though, you don't really want to be settling down with somebody that's never had a relationship. The whole point in having those high school or middle school relationships is to learn how to do it, figure out who you are, have
Develop some
sex, test
boundaries.
things out, with other people in the same situation as you.
Yes, so you can fumble together.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God, the first time
We don't need to talk about this.
No.
We're halfway.
Yeah, yeah.
We're halfway through.
I'd rather never talk about it, to be honest.
Well, now we're going to.
No. So she
Okay.
has to be Hispanic, Latina, or white.
Mm-hmm. That's very specific, but okay, people have preferences.
Yeah. But why? I mean, I might just be ignorant here. Why is he differentiated between Hispanic and Latina?
Hispanic and Latino are sometimes used interchangeably. They have different meanings. Hispanic refers to individuals who are Spanish speaking or have a background in a Spanish speaking country. Latino refers to those who are from or have background in a Latin American country.
Oh, okay.
Oh, look, we learned something today.
Yeah, it's not really something that we encounter much in my country. I don't mean Hispanic or Latino people. I just mean
Difference between the two?
yeah, because it's not our demographic is made up differently here in the UK. So
Gotcha.
yeah, 5'3" or less.
Mm.
Do you know what? This is starting to sound like an advert for an abusive relationship.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
they all.
yeah. One or two friends prefers none.
Yeah.
So
He wants to isolate her and have her completely reliant on him for her social outlets.
Yeah, and he'd prefer it if she's already isolated herself, so he doesn't have to do it.
Yeah, because effort. We talked about that. It's an effort.
Yeah. Doesn't aspire to be famous or watch TikTok.
Because then she won't stumble across the feminists who are like, girl.
Yeah, we need to save you.
You need to get out of that relationship.
But long hair and street tough. So he starts off, the first half of it so far has been he wants her to be skinny, no friends, no life experience, not knowing what relationship
probably
is.
Malnourished.
Yeah. But now he wants her to be street tough too.
With long flowing locks.
Yeah. Doesn't get drunk or smokes weed. We can still do it seldomly. How often is seldom?
But also he's the one who decides we can still do it.
Yeah.
We can still do it because she doesn't have any other friends to do it with.
Jesus Christ. But the other thing is, if you're street tough, is it likely you're going to be a virgin that doesn't get drunk or smoke weed?
Probably not, but I've never been referred to as street tough. I've got street smarts, but I wouldn't say I'm street tough.
Yeah. It has to be at least a 4.
I mean, depending on his rating scale, that's not out of the realm of possibility.
But it might be out of the bounds of his achievability.
It could.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what he considers a 4.
I think he's just put that in there just to be like, oh, well, you are a nice bloke then. You're happy to settle for a 4. I think he's put that in to manipulate people.
Probably. Yeah, probably.
Emotional manipulation. Isn't extroverted too much and has some sort of family issues and isn't close with her family.
So further isolating her and making sure she has no external support systems or anywhere to go when this relationship eventually turns either physically or emotionally abusive.
Or all of it, all of the abuses.
All of yeah. So I mean, that was his was a shorter way of saying it, but
Mm.
he should have just said, "I'm going to abuse you" at some point.
Yeah. That's probably wants her to be 5'3", is probably because he's 5'5" and he doesn't want to get beat up by his girlfriend.
He's also skinny, so he wants
Yeah.
her to be skinnier than him.
So he's in for a tough ride then, because if she's street tough and maybe if she does MMA, doesn't matter how short she is, she'll still kick the shit out of you.
Right? And the fact that he wants her to be poor with no friends and no family means he wants her to have absolutely no way out.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. And doesn't eat junk food and keeps her health in check and likes traveling.
Oh, but you missed the one before that.
Oh, wants to live the old life where we both raise a family and a home and we both work. That's not the old life, though.
No, the old life would be you go off to work.
Yeah.
And she stays home to his family. My favorite part, step up to the plate, ladies. That's the only female I am compatible with, and it's not asking much. You know what the saddest part of this is? Is that it was posted like a month ago. So it wasn't like, oh, this was posted in 1957.
No.
Posted a month ago.
This reads like one of those letters that Odette reads out sometimes from really old Australian newspapers.
Yes, I love when she does that.
Yeah, yeah.
Doesn't eat junk food, keeps her health in check, but she's skinny and fit. She's still poor, so can't really afford probably to eat healthfully.
Jesus Christ.
Isn't too much of an extrovert, but what even if she is, doesn't matter because she doesn't have any friends or family that she can rely on.
Yeah, he's either gonna hit you or gaslight you or something. That is a man to avoid.
Yeah, he's also setting her up for like financial abuse because he wants to make sure she doesn't have any resources or anywhere to go.
But he wants her to work, which I think means he wants to financially abuse her. I think he wants to take her money because he wants her to work but be isolated.
But probably not work gainfully. Tagged not safe for work. And in the subreddit, too afraid to ask is where it was posted. Is it possible to find a hetero cis woman partner? I mean, I'm glad he said woman. With a high sex drive who does not have a high body count. Sorry, it is a silly question in as much as everyone is a unique individual, blah, blah. But I want to hear Reddit's opinion, of course, because Reddit is the...
Yeah, it's the best place for people's opinion.
The planetary source for a reason. I am aware that Reddit is not necessarily... Oh, here it is. I'm aware that Reddit is not necessarily representative of the world at large, though it's sometimes difficult to remember this. Appreciate any constructive input. And the input is what you would have expected. With a lot of, the fuck is wrong with you? Like, a high sex drive without a high body count. I mean, that is absolutely possible. If you've got somebody who's been serially monogamous and hasn't had a lot of partners, but has had long-term partners, then yeah, you can absolutely have this. But why does the obsession with body count come from a fear of competition or comparison or their own insecurity, or do they really not know how the female anatomy works and they think that it changes our physical being to have sex?
Yeah,
I think there's a couple in here where men talk about like different types of vaginas and like roast beef lips, which is a terrible way to describe it. Means she's had a lot of sex. And then this woman in the comments is like, "No, I'm a virgin. Vaginas just look different. Like the whole kit and caboodle isn't the same from person to person. Stop watching so much porn." But like, is it like I'm afraid her body's going to be wrecked, or I'm afraid she's going to compare me to somebody who is better lover than I am?
I think the first one, well, they're like, oh, you know, it'll change your body and stuff. I think that's what they put on as the mask. I don't think they actually care about it. The second one is I think it's that it depends on the bloke in question, and it could be any one of these or both. But it's to do with insecurity because men are worried about being compared. And the other one is about control, and they don't like sharing. So it's like,
But you're not actively sharing.
No. This is why I've never understood jealousy as a in this sense from men, because it just doesn't compute for me. It's like, well, they're not with that guy now, and who says they've just been with blokes anyway? They could have been with anybody or anything, you know?
And it was just like, how do you live like that if you can't be with a partner that you trust? then maybe that's not the partner for you, or that you're not the partner for that person, because that's
Mm.
something that you need to work on yourself, so that you're not being always waiting for someone to cheat on you. Like, you're always got one foot out the door if that's the case.
I think I've got a funny story to tell you in a second about jealousy and phone calls, but I want to get to this other thing first. But it's that one of the things I think jealousy has always been quite clear for me is because I always understood on some level that I'm worried about being abandoned. Like, so sex stuff was never something that bothered me, even when I was cheated on and stuff in the past. It's just not bothered me. What I was worried about would be that somebody would just leave me without explanation or telling me why. That's what I was personally always worried about. And I think that most men don't understand the difference between them, and they always attribute it to worried about being compared in bed and stuff like that. But I think but that's the other thing as well, that like I've never worried about being compared, because that's not me. Like, why would I worry? I know some women do, some women don't, but men do tend to worry about their performance. So
I think it's one of those things of like I've known a few people who say that they could never go to a movie by themselves or at dinner by themselves because people are watching them. It's like, nobody's watching. It's a fear you have, but it's not actually legitimate fear because nobody knows. And I wonder if men are the same way, because like I've had female friends my entire life, right? And I have like my book club now is a group of 12 women, and we all get together and we never talk about men's performance. And with other friends, like, it's not a topic of conversation that comes up. So like all these men who are afraid that women are just sitting around in their negligees having tickle fights and talking about what you're like in bed. We're not.
No,
we're not. Nobody cares about you in bed as much as you care about you in bed.
And exactly. And it's because men assume that women process sex in the same way as they do. And where a man is worried about his own performance and pleasing the woman, they worry that the woman is going to place the same amount of emphasis on it that they're doing. And it's like they've amplified it so much in their heads. I mean, we've all been there, but it's just some of us grow out of it.
That's the thing with all of this. You'd hope eventually that people would grow out of this type of but then as soon as they get to an age where they start to be able to like critically think and be exposed to different ideas, that's when they stumble upon men like Tate and Connor and Alex and the guy in the woods who just reinforces all the shit that they were thinking
biases and stuff. And I think this is what, like, things like this worry me in the sense that I feel like a man wrote that, not a 15-year-old boy. And like, if this was a 15-year-old boy, I'd get it, because he doesn't know much yet. Like, he hasn't experienced the world. But all of this stuff is that, like, some of this is coming from grown fucking men.
But I think they're young men. Like, I don't think a 35-year-old wrote this. I think like a 23-year-old wrote this, which is still not amazing.
Still it's still quite old to be thinking that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but you've got men who are like on dating apps in their 40s who are still wondering about body count.
Yeah, exactly. That's what really worries me, because that's the other thing as well, is like men don't really talk about in detail the women that they've slept with either. They might talk about it a little bit with some really close mates if it's not a serious thing, but they won't go into grotesque detail like some guys do. And it's kind of like the blokes that do it tend to be walking red flags, and then you wouldn't have them as a close friend, and you wouldn't share your own.
I think it comes back to like, you think people are guilty of doing the things that you're doing.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I think if a man is thinking that women are getting together and talking about what they're like in bed, it's because he is going out. And like, there's another subreddit called I Have Sex, where people make these like really random statements about their sex lives to prove like, look at me, I'm getting laid. Woo! And so it feels like this would be that same type of guy. Like, you're assuming that your partner is going out blabbing, and maybe some women do. I don't know. I've never been in that little group of women who do that, but if you think someone else is doing it, it's likely because you are too.
Yeah. Like, I tell you what, this one bloke's reaction once was like, he started settling down with this lass, and then hit the first thing he said about it. He went, "Yeah, it's really unfair though." And then I was like, "What? Why?" He goes, "You slept with more people than I have, so that means I'm never going to catch up to you." And I was like,
but it's not a competition.
Yeah.
It's not a competition.
I know. And I was just like, that was something that, like,
the fuck is wrong?
Yeah. So like, hardly any blokes would ever think like that, let alone say it. Like, it's just not something that men think. But because blokes like him are so vocal and they are walking red flags, like, you know, he tried showing me once this is the bloke who I think might be a sex offender, right? Yeah. He tried to show me a picture of his partner, like in underwear, like when they were, they've been together like a year. And then he was like, oh, check this out, shows me the photo. I was like, what's that? I'm like, fuck, I don't want to see that.
That's so disrespectful.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy who then posts that online after she breaks up with him as revenge.
Yeah.
That's disgusting.
Isn't it? So so this is from my mum. So we know that my mum's not very stable. Right. So she was seeing this guy that she met on a dating app. This is like about 10, 15 years ago. And like he told her, like, oh, I'm seeing my parents this weekend, you know, it's before Christmas, and then so I need to see my parents, so I'm not going to be in contact much this weekend. And she's like, yeah, that's fine, don't worry. And they've been seeing each other for a few months by this point. And so he is actually seeing his parents, right? And so he's like trying to text her and stuff. She's like, well, why can't I call you? He's like, well, I'm sitting with my mum and dad, I can't. And then so she rings this home. She's really drunk. She's had like 2 bottles of wine, rings us home, and then starts saying, like, you're with one of those sluts, aren't you? I fucking know it. If you're there, pick up the phone now, blah, blah, blah. And then he ghosted her after that, never spoke to her again.
You don't say.
Yeah.
You don't say. There was a guy, I think my husband was telling me a story recently about this guy who was discovered that he had like 2 entirely separate families, because he would do the same thing where I'm like, I got to go travel for work for a little bit. And he would go and he was like with his other family and 2 kids. And then he'd come home to his first family and 2 kids. And like, could you imagine having 2? Like, how would you even keep it straight?
You'd be exhausted.
How would you even know? Like, it would be exhausted. It would be incredibly expensive. And how would you, like, oh, is it Timmy's soccer tonight or is it Mary's hockey tonight? I don't know. Where the fuck do I have to be? Whose kid is who? Like, how would you even get that straight?
There's I can't remember if it's a TV series or a movie, but it's got Ruth Wilson in it, and it's based on, I think, her grandfather. I think the film's called Wilson. I can't remember, but basically, her grandfather had like 3 or 4 families across the world and did that, and then they only found out after he died, and they all just through serendipity or whatever just made contact with each other, and they've now made a film about it with this bloke in his double life.
That is quadruple life.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I think I might pay somebody to show up at my funeral that nobody's ever seen before. And just like sob violently. Yeah. And then when people ask, like, how did you know GVizzle? They'd just be really cryptic about the whole thing. That's what I want.
Yeah. That is such a good idea.
I'll be questioning it forever.
Yeah.
Who was that? And then whomever it is, male or female, needs to be wearing like a veil.
Yeah.
So their face is obscured.
And maybe bring a little kid in tow as well.
Yeah. Currently accepting applications. It may not happen for hopefully 40 odd years, but
well, hopefully not before me, because you can't leave me on my own. That's unfair.
Oh, I'll have ghosted you long before that. Don't worry. Favorite segment ever. Pleasure talking with you.